God, in His wisdom, created the human body as an incredible machine, a masterpiece capable of extraordinary feats. Just like any engine, our body needs fuel to function, and that fuel is food. The constant reminder that we need to eat is hunger, a natural mechanism placed by God to ensure we don't neglect this essential need. But, interestingly, there are times when we choose to ignore this hunger, and this brings us to the practice of fasting. Hunger is one of the most basic and powerful impulses of human beings. The feeling of hunger awakens an urgency, a deep desire to satisfy the physical need for energy. However, when we choose to fast, we are deliberately deciding to suspend that natural response. This may seem counterintuitive in a world where we are conditioned to eat regularly, but fasting has a far greater meaning than merely depriving the body of food. What drives someone to choose hunger when God created the body to be nourished? Fasting is a spiritual practice that transcends simple food abstinence. It is an act of discipline and a search for something greater. While the modern world often associates hunger with suffering, the Bible teaches us that there is purpose and power in fasting, and it is used as a tool to draw us closer to God. From an early age, we are taught that we should eat 3 meals a day to stay healthy and strong. We are constantly bombarded with the idea that a good meal is the foundation of a good day. This makes us question, why would anyone choose to go hungry when everything around us encourages us to eat regularly? The answer lies in the deep spiritual significance of fasting, which goes far beyond the physical. Choosing to fast is a conscious decision to seek something that food cannot offer: spiritual connection, focus, and alignment with God's will. Fasting is not about denying the body but rather inviting the soul to take control and connect with the Creator on a deeper level. Hunger, then, ceases to be an enemy to be fought and becomes an ally on the path to spirituality. From ancient times, fasting has played a key role in the spiritual life of believers. In the Old Testament, God instituted fasting as a sacred act, especially on the Day of Atonement, known as Yom Kippur. This was the only mandatory fast for all Israelites, where the people would abstain from food to humble their souls and reconnect with God. In Leviticus chapter 16, verse 29, God commands that on this specific day, no one should perform any work and everyone must fast. The purpose of this fast was much more than simply not eating. It represented an act of repentance and purification before God. The Day of Atonement was the time when the high priest would enter the Holy of Holies, the most sacred place in the tabernacle, and offer the sacrifice of an animal to atone for the sins of the entire people. Everyone fasted because it was a moment to reflect on their transgressions and seek divine forgiveness. This fast, therefore, was not an individual practice but a collective one. All the people of Israel, of all ages and social classes, united for one purpose: to seek redemption and purification from their sins. The hunger they felt during this period was a reminder of the need for spiritual renewal, and fasting was the path to that transformation. By abstaining from food, the people spiritually aligned themselves with the sacrifice offered on their behalf. It's interesting to note that fasting at that time also symbolized a shared spiritual identity. By fasting together, the Israelites strengthened their commitment to God and to one another, creating a bond of spiritual unity. Everyone participated in the same experience, with the same purpose, which strengthened collective faith. Fasting, in addition to being a spiritual practice, was also a public demonstration of submission to God's will. The example of Yom Kippur is a powerful reminder that biblical fasting has always been more than just abstaining from food. It is a physical expression of a spiritual need. This act of bodily denial was, and still is, a way to achieve something much greater: forgiveness, reconciliation, and a renewed relationship with the Creator. And so, fasting continues to be a practice of great importance, both in the Old and New Testaments. With the coming of Jesus, fasting continued to be an important spiritual practice, but he brought a new perspective on how and why to fast. In Matthew chapter 6, verses 16 to 18, Jesus taught his disciples that fasting should not be a show of spiritual pride or exhibitionism. He warned against those who made fasting a public display, masking themselves as devout to gain the approval of others. According to Jesus, the true reward of fasting comes from God, not from public recognition. Jesus was clear when he said, "When you fast, do not look somber as the hypocrites do, for they disfigure their faces to show others they are fasting. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward." Here, he teaches that fasting should be an intimate practice between the believer and God. The focus should not be on the visible sacrifice but on the internal devotion and sincerity of the heart. For Jesus, true spirituality happens in secret, away from prying eyes. In addition to emphasizing humility in fasting, Jesus also made it clear that he expected his followers to fast. His phrase "when you fast" suggests that fasting was expected as part of Christian life, not as a legalistic obligation but as a natural act of devotion. Fasting, according to Jesus, is a powerful tool to intensify prayer and seek God's favor in times of spiritual need. He didn't reject the practice; on the contrary, he validated it as a fundamental discipline. One of the most significant moments involving fasting in Jesus' life was before the beginning of his public ministry. He fasted for 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness, preparing himself for the trials ahead. This period of fasting was crucial for his mission, as it was when he faced direct temptations from the enemy and emerged victorious. This example shows us that fasting is not just about abstaining from food but a way to strengthen the spirit for future challenges. Therefore, in the New Testament, fasting takes on a new depth. It is no longer just a ritual or legal command but an expression of genuine seeking for God, purification of the soul, and preparation for spiritual service. And fasting, like prayer, remains an essential practice for those who want to draw closer to the Father, knowing that this closeness does not need earthly applause but divine approval. Fasting is not just an ancient practice reserved for biblical times; it remains a powerful spiritual tool available to all of us today. Often, we feel that our spiritual life is stagnant, that our prayers lack the fervor they once had. If you've ever felt the need for a deeper reconnection with God, fasting may be the answer you're looking for. Through fasting, we give up our physical needs to focus on what truly matters: our soul and our relationship with the Creator. Fasting is an act of faith. By giving up something as basic as food, we are telling God that our hunger for Him is greater than our physical hunger. The Bible teaches that fasting is a way to seek divine intervention, to ask for wisdom, protection, or a solution to difficult problems. When we fast with a clear purpose, the Lord listens to our prayers in a special way because we are sacrificing something precious to us in exchange for a deeper encounter with Him. Have you ever wondered what could change in your life if you dedicated time to fasting? Maybe you've been searching for answers that seem out of reach. Fasting might be exactly what you need to unlock that new spiritual phase. When doing so, don't forget that this practice must be accompanied by fervent prayer. It's not just about going hungry but about nourishing your soul with God's presence, allowing Him to speak to your heart in powerful ways. If you haven't yet experienced the power of fasting, I encourage you to take that step of faith. It doesn't have to be a long or complex fast. Start small. How about skipping one meal, dedicating that time to prayer, and seeing how God begins to move pieces in your life? Take advantage of this time of sacrifice to focus on His promises and seek the answers you've been longing for. After all, Jesus taught us that when we fast in secret, God rewards us openly. By the way, if you're enjoying this content, don't forget to subscribe to the Divine Prosperity channel and leave your like. Here, we share more about how to build a prosperous spiritual life, with practical tips based on the Bible. Also, don't miss the next video, where we dive even deeper into other spiritual disciplines that can transform your journey with God. For many, the idea of fasting can seem intimidating, especially for those who have never tried this practice. The fear of feeling hungry, dealing with physical discomfort, or not being able to complete the fast are common concerns. After all, we've been conditioned to believe that we need to eat regularly to maintain our health and energy. But fasting, when done mindfully and with spiritual purpose, is not as difficult as it seems, and God honors every step we take in faith. One of the biggest concerns people have is the fear of hunger. And yes, feeling hungry is uncomfortable, but that sensation is temporary. Often, it's more the habit of eating than the body's actual need that makes us feel hungry so quickly. The key to overcoming this is to remember that fasting is not about suffering but about sacrifice. When we feel hungry during fasting, we should redirect our minds to prayer and meditation, seeking God's presence. Another common doubt is, will I be able to complete the fast? This is natural, especially if it's your first time. The important thing is to start slow. No one expects you to fast for 3 days right away. Begin with fasting for 1 meal or even 1 day, and gradually increase as you feel more comfortable. What truly matters to God is the sincerity of your heart, not how long you can go without eating. Additionally, many people worry about what others will think. Will my friends and family think it's weird if I tell them I'm fasting? Jesus anticipated this concern when he said in Matthew chapter 6, verse 17, that we should fast discreetly, without showing it to others. Fasting is a practice between you and God, and the opinions of those around you shouldn't be an obstacle. If possible, keep your fast private and focus on your spiritual journey. The greatest concern of all, however, should be the state of your heart while fasting. Fasting isn't just about abstaining from food, it's a time for introspection and spiritual renewal. Therefore, if your focus is on God and the purpose for which you are fasting, doubts and fears will fade away. And remember, God values the intention of your heart far more than the perfection of your fast. Although fasting can be done individually, there is tremendous power in fasting as a community. Throughout the Bible, we see examples of groups of people coming together in fasting and prayer to seek divine intervention. One of the most striking examples is that of Ezra, who called 4,000 people to fast with him before embarking on a dangerous journey. Similarly, Queen Esther asked all the Jews to fast together for 3 days, seeking deliverance for their people. When we fast with others, we share a common purpose. This sense of unity strengthens our faith and gives us mutual support, especially in moments when hunger or discouragement tries to sway us from the goal. Just like in a physical journey, such as climbing a mountain, having a companion beside you makes the walk lighter. The strength of a friend fasting alongside you might be the encouragement you need to keep going. Fasting in community also reminds us that we are not alone in our spiritual struggles. When we unite with others, our prayers become stronger, as there is a special power in the union of hearts and minds focused on God. In Matthew chapter 18, verse 19, Jesus said, "If 2 of you on earth agree about anything they ask for, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven." This principle also applies to fasting. When we fast together, we increase our spiritual strength. Moreover, fasting with others creates a natural form of accountability. By having a fasting partner, you feel more committed to seeing it through to the end. If at any moment you feel like giving up, a simple conversation with your partner can bring the encouragement you need to continue. You can share experiences, doubts, and even moments of joint prayer, making the journey richer and more meaningful. At the end of the fast, the sense of victory is also shared. Just like in a competition where the group's effort is celebrated collectively, when we fast together, we have the opportunity to celebrate spiritual victories with those who are by our side. Fasting in community reminds us that, in the walk with God, fellowship with others is one of the greatest gifts we can have. Before starting any fast, it's essential to have a plan. Fasting should not be approached casually or improvised. When we plan, we ensure that our spiritual purpose is clear and that our expectations are aligned with what we want to achieve. This also prevents us from giving up at the first difficulty, something common for those who are unprepared. Planning is an important part of fasting, as it helps us stay focused, understand our limitations, and ensure that we are acting wisely. There are different types of fasting, and each can be adjusted to the needs and circumstances of the person practicing it. Absolute fasting, for example, is when the person abstains from food and liquids for a period. This is a very rigorous fast, usually reserved for moments of extreme spiritual need. A biblical example is the Apostle Paul, who spent 3 days without eating or drinking after his encounter with Jesus on the road to Damascus, Acts chapter 9, verse 9. However, it is not recommended for beginners. The normal fast, which is most commonly practiced, involves abstaining from solid foods while allowing liquids. This type of fast is frequently seen in the Bible, as in the case of Jesus, who fasted for 40 days in the desert, without eating, though there is no mention of abstaining from liquids. It is a powerful way to connect with God, allowing the physical body to weaken so that the spirit can strengthen. This type of fast is an excellent option for those looking to start in a safer and more structured way. Another popular type is the partial fast, where the person restricts certain types of food, such as Daniel's fast, where he avoided meat, wine, and rich foods, maintaining a simple diet of vegetables and water. This fast is ideal for those who want a lighter yet still significant sacrifice. When choosing a type of fast, it's important to reflect on your purpose and choose the one that best aligns with your spiritual and physical reality. Planning also means setting the duration of the fast. There's no need to start with a prolonged fast. Many begin by fasting for one meal or an entire day, and as they gain confidence and experience, they increase the duration. The most important thing is the sincerity of the heart and the desire to draw closer to God, knowing that He values every effort made with faith and humility.